Welcome to Clay Mastermind with Don Grant. Mental excellence and industry insights. Brought to you by the Clay Lab, your ultimate podcast for mastering the mental game of clay shooting and gaining exclusive insights from the top minds in the industry. Join us as we dive into the strategies of elite athletes, uncover the secrets to peak performance, and share powerful techniques to enhance your shooting skill. Plus, get behind-the-scenes access to the leaders and innovators who are shaping the future of the clay shooting industry. Get ready to elevate your game, sharpen your focus, and gain insider knowledge from the best in the business. Let's get started. Here's your host, Don Grant.
All right, I'm excited to have Wendell Cherry on the podcast as a guest. Thank you, Wendell, very much for coming on and joining me today.
Well, it's great to be here, Don Grant, and I've actually been looking forward to this for a while, so I'm glad we found time to do it.
Well, good. I can't wait to hear what you were looking forward to sharing. Well, tell us, so in case there's anybody in the clay shooting world that doesn't know who you are, tell us who you are.
Well, I'm a Hall of Fame sporting clay shooter and a coach with a very successful school that's and I've been in this for about 30 years.
Awesome. What did you do before that?
I play guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 6 years old. Started on the Opry, was my first job as a pro player in the staff band there at 17. And I did that for a long time. I played for several artists there and toured and did studio work and all that kind of stuff.
Are you going to tell us what artists?
Well, the last guy I played for was Eddie Raven, and I played for Eddie for about 10 years. And I quit April 29th of 2002. And my last show that I played was at the very same spot that I started at. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, and stuff. But I've done, sessions with Tim McGraw and Pam Tillis and just lots of artists through the years. But it's been so long ago, I've kind of forgotten some of it,
Yeah, it probably feels like a whole nother life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of your recent accomplishments or your greatest accomplishments in the clay?
Well, I think last year at almost 60 years old, winning my fourth Open, I thought that was a kind of a sweet moment for me. And so that was one great moment. There's just been lots of great rounds and stuff through 30 years of competition and stuff. But probably the fourth Open was probably the most special moment.
So why was that U.S. Open so important to you?
Well, I think it was just kind of a comeback for me. I had a lot of traumatic stuff happen a few years back, and to kind of get knocked down and off track and to kind of get back up and win the fourth Open at that age, I think that was a big moment. I'm not sure that I've ever accomplished anything any bigger than that. It was a big learning experience through all of that.
So you've got a lot of large titles under your belt, right? Overall,
I do.
Years of
I do. Yeah.
What's the next large title you're looking for?
Probably the world. I've got a silver at the world. This year I was sixth at the World Sporting, seventh score-wise at World FITAS, and 10th at the Open. And I've been runner-up a lot of times at San Antonio, and I kind of like to have that one. Other than that, most everything I've won several times. So I've had a great ride and all of that. But now it's just the bigger shoots that really is going to change things for me. If some of the shoots just really doesn't move the ball for me at my stage of my career. And so it's the Open, the Nationals, and the World FITAS and World Sporting. Those are the four that really matter.
Yeah. So tell me, what did actually get you into clay shooting and switching over from being a professional?
Well, it was kind of weird. When I grew up as a kid, I always heard stories about my grandfather who had actually passed away before I was born. So I'd hear all these stories about his shooting and just kind of hunting stories and stuff. And that's kind of made me want to shoot. And it was kind of a thing my whole family did. So I started when I was 8 years old shooting, and we all hunted quail and things like that. And I just started shooting clay targets to kind of get better at that. And so that's just kind of how it all started.
Yeah. So what got you into actual competition?
When I was a kid, I shot trap because at the time I started shooting, there was no sporting clays here. So you either shot trap or skeet, and I didn't have enough money to shoot skeet, so I shot trap. And I played sports in school, and just I've always kind of been a competitor. I guess that's what's brought me into it. I remember some books early as a kid I would read about some of the old school traveling pros and all that stuff. And that kind of inspired me to shoot and to compete.
At that young age, what did you think you were going to do when you grew up? Or did you have any idea what you were leaning
Well,
toward?
when I was 12 years old, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And 5 years later, I was doing it. It's kind of weird now. I see young kids going to college and they don't know why they're going to college.
Yeah.
But at a very early age, I knew exactly what I was going to do, and I didn't know how to make money at it. I didn't know if you could, but I just knew what I had a passion for, and that's what I was going to do. And
What was that? Like, what did you call
well,
it?
that was to play guitar early on. That was my whole world, and so I kind of knew from the start that's what I was going to do.
Cool. How did you get started with the guitar?
I just taught myself. I totally played by ear. All the sessions that I played on, they would put charts out in front of me, and I would act like I could read, but I couldn't read any of it. But my ear is good, so I don't really have to read.
I remember I was put into band after school or whatever
Yeah,
and given a flute, and nobody ever taught me how to read music. So I
yeah,
just winged it, but I
yeah.
never learned how to hear it either.
That's it.
It's
Just fake
just
it till you make it.
I was just blowing in the flute. I'm
That's
like,
right.
where did anybody else learn how to read music? They just
Yeah.
threw us all in there.
Well, the few times I've tried to learn, it was so not. I don't know. There was nothing about that sounded like a song to me at all. It just sounded like scales, and stuff. So I just have a good ear. Like I can hear something once and I can play it back. So that's just the way I did it for 30 something years.
Yeah. So they'll be
Yeah.
curious with that kind of mind and those abilities. Do you see it translating over to your clay shooting?
In every way.
How is that?
Rhythm, flow, timing, tension control, presence, those things.
Yeah, I've often admired people on stage performing, especially like the singers, if they're singing and playing the guitar at the same
Yeah.
time. I'm always like, how do they do that?
Well, as you play guitar, if I'm trying to play a hard piece, something really complicated, I may have to play that tens of thousands of times, failing each time before I get to where I can subconsciously play it flawlessly. And sometimes that takes tens of thousands of times. So when I'm teaching in a class and somebody drops a target and I see a little frustration, I'm going, well, I practiced the same 5 things for the last 30 years. Right,
Right.
right. And I still don't have them down. They're just a little bit better. And as far as playing an instrument, now at this point, I've been playing some of the same songs for 50 something years, and you still make them better. And so I think having that mindset and that approach in your shooting is the way you become very, very good at it. And I think sometimes shooters think, well, if I learn this new trick or something new, or it's not really finding something new, it's perfecting the old and or the fundamental. And that's really what it all comes down to, because it has to be perfected at such a state that if you put pressure on it, it stays glued together.
Exactly. Which, I can see how these correspond with each other. Like that ability to play that song
Hmm.
from, we would call muscle memory or from the
Hmm.
subconscious due
Hmm.
to lots of repetition.
Well, think about
And
this: like on a show, I may walk out like on the Opry. There's a commentator on there, and he's doing some ad, and he's doing Martha White Flower or something. And while he's talking on this 30-second spot, you're plugging in to something you've never even plugged into before. It's bright. You can't see the audience. It's chaotic. And so you try to find the right amp to plug into, and you've got seconds to get a tone and everything. And then a camera comes out, and he's 6 inches from your hand, and you're playing in front of 40 million people worldwide through TV, and that's a lot of pressure.
Do that coming over to your shooting as well, then, right? Performing under pressure.
Absolutely. And so just about everything I do comes from that training, that I started playing. But the timing is a huge part of it, the flow of it, the tension control. If you tense up when you're trying to play something, it just kind of falls apart. And the same thing in shooting. And so the tension control. So I'm going to ask you, if you need to be relaxed, that really starts in the brain, does it? Right? And it's not just the body, it starts in the mind. So, that's an alpha state, really.
Correct. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because
Right?
your thoughts trigger your reactions in your body. So if you're having a cruddy thought to something, you can definitely tense up or.
So I think that's where playing has to be from. I also think that's where shooting has to be from. To have great flow, to see the target well, and those type of things. And the bigger the match, the more at stake, the harder those states are to find. So that's why they have to be practiced so much.
And so your belief in what you've experienced with practicing songs and playing them over and over again, I could see how that's carried over to your regimen for how you practice, because you have a pretty strict way that you like to practice. So tell
I
us.
do. So, I start every season kind of the same way. I have a format that I follow, and I'm going through all my primary shots. And then at the end of that, I'll start to build scores. And then after all that's done, which is about 6 to 8 weeks of work, and then I shoot my first match. It's not just the physical work; it's your inner dialogue too, as well. That you should be practicing while you are shooting. If I'm training or out on the field, I'm thinking about my next match. I'm that's what's on my mind. I'm shooting targets that I expect to see at that match, and I kind of put myself there in my mind doing well, and try to keep all that all those thoughts positive. So it's not just the shooting part, but it's also the mind part too, where I'm kind of trying to experience the match even before I'm there, and so and I prefer to start that a couple of months out.
Well, and when you're actually practicing, you believe in lots of repetition of your shots, right? What do you still do that?
I do. I don't shoot near the volume that I did, and I probably should. It's just a time thing more than anything else. But I think however many reps it takes you to have a perfect move subconsciously, that's how many it takes. And, here's kind of a tip with that. The thing that makes that take less, or the act that makes you acquire it quicker, is the quality of your analyzation of each shot that you shoot. Most people don't really analyze themselves thoroughly enough to get feedback off of the shots that they shoot. It basically is, well, I hit the target or I didn't hit the target. But you should be monitoring what your thoughts were, what they were supposed to be, your tension level, your movement. You should be very aware of every part of the shot, right?
Yeah.
And if you practice that way, things come way quicker.
Yeah, because then, as we said a little while ago, your body reacts to your thoughts. So if somebody's having a crappy thought about how they're practicing, or if they miss targets, then they're going to have the effect of that in their body, which then turns out the effect of that in their score, right?
That's right. And so we were talking about, well, great shooting comes out of an alpha state. Well, but before I shoot, I kind of see the shot in my mind at half speed, and so that's kind of summoning that alpha state. right? And so that's the last part of my program before I close the gun to call pull. And I've kind of brought myself down into that state prior to the call. And I also think of a very important way to kind of set all of that up is as you view the targets, make sure that you're viewing from a calm state, almost an underplayed state. And that doesn't mean that you're shoddy on your intel. It just means that you're summoning the correct headspace to view from and to shoot from, and they should be very close to each other.
Well, so you're talking about the alpha state and
Yeah,
summoning it. How do you do that if a person doesn't know what the alpha state is? How did you
probably.
learn what the alpha state is?
Really, I kind of fell into it and fall out of it throughout my life, but really, when I started doing self hypnosis stuff, that's what really showed me clearly. And obviously, this is the state. This is what it feels like. And so that was a big help to just show me where spot is, how it feels, and how to find it again. And so the last part of my program is to kind of slip into that state.
Yeah. So you've been practicing hypnosis for a long time.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you knew about it before working with me or not, but you and I started working together probably like 2009, 2010.
Yep.
But you've always been a great client because you are extremely open-minded about the mental game. Where,
Hmm.
some people I have to kind of start at ground zero and teach
Hmm.
them about it and try to even get them to believe in it. So let's say prior to 2009, 2010, did you have experience with the mental game that really opened your mind up to wanting to work on it even more?
I just read books, and not great books either, and I just kind of come up with my own version of what I thought it was supposed to be, and started that way. And the truth is, it hasn't really changed that much. I would try. I would go out and I would compete this way with this program, and I would keep changing it until I found something that was successful. It's better today. It's more. I know a lot more today, but it hasn't changed a whole lot.
So looking back to like 2009, 2010, do
Mhm.
you remember when you learned about my training and what caught your interest about it?
A student I was teaching, and I've always looked for training on that side because in the top of the game we can all shoot. Everybody can shoot. It's really going to be won and lost these days on the other side of stuff because everybody can shoot. It was just trying to find a competitive edge, really.
So you had a
And
friend that you sent in as your like guinea pig, right?
well, no, he had already been. So we were talking about that part of the game, and he told me about you. So I had kind of a problem at the time that I couldn't solve, and I called you, and that's how it started.
It was like 2013 that Judy asked me to speak at the Team USA get together at
Hmm.
Mill Creek. And you had shared during that time how you had been working with me and how helpful it was to you.
Hmm.
And it was really helpful because you opened up so many people's minds and really started sharing what you'd been experiencing. So there's a phrase, it's 90% mental. And some shooters or even top shooters or instructors can get offended by that statement because, well, if it's 90% mental, I think that they feel like it takes away from the mechanics. So, what's your beliefs on the concept of it's 90% mental?
I think in the beginning it's not. I think your mechanics have to be a repeatable, adequate spot, and but once you've become fundamentally very sound, then it's mostly mental.
Right.
But at the same time, having said that, as you polish your fundamentals, the mental side of that is presence, is tension control, is flow, and all of that. So you could say half of your movement is from the other side. It's not just how you move. And so I think from the very start, uh, suppression, presence, visual cues, those type of things have to be used, or you can't move the gun correctly.
Absolutely. So you're
Right?
you're saying it goes hand in hand.
It
And
does hand in hand. Yeah.
like my
You know,
brain.
well, I kind of hear this all the time. Well, I've got my move down. I need to find somebody to help me with the other parts. Well, if you're being taught well, that they're being taught hand in hand at the same time. Should be.
I agree. And there's different types of mental game that are being taught. I think there's a really kind of simplistic one that has to
Mhm.
do with maybe pre-shot routine or post-shot,
Right.
where the one that I teach is much broader.
Yeah, it's a bigger game than that. Yeah.
Mhm.
What you teach is your inner dialogue to yourself. And that's way more important than any pre-shot. It really is, because there's lots of pre-shots you could do, and most of those would work. But there's really only one positive way to think. Uh,
Mhm.
there's really only one headspace that's that is going to work. Um, like it should, and stuff. So I think that's what you teach is how to think correctly all day long, right?
Mhm.
Saying that, so do you ever? So do you see the same problems come up over and over again by everybody as your clients come in? Are we all basically bothered by the same stuff?
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
over the years, I have been able to see that that's a fact. It's
yeah,
almost like there are umbrella issues that are human issues, like
yeah,
worry or
yeah,
doubt or fear
yeah,
or second guessing or regretting, overthinking. So those are more like the umbrella human
yeah,
issues that carry across to all different people, and some have one more than other. Like some people worry more than they regret, and some people overthink more than they are just lacking in confidence. And and so then it gets more specific, like what are you worrying about, right?
yeah,
So that's how it gets more specific to the person, and
yeah.
that's absolutely different for everybody. Like
Right.
over the years, I've talked to people who worry because, well, I'm in the stand and I'm afraid I'm taking too long, and all these other shooters are more advanced than me, and they probably think that I don't know what I'm doing, or I shot the pair in the reverse order. And so they worry about all of those types of things, and then they're
Hmm.
anxious and, obviously not performing well, and then leaving the cage. And where you get somebody else who might worry more about their score or the streak that they're on, or worry that they always seem to, miss rabbits, or they're worrying because they seem to drop the last pairs consistently, or the first pairs, or they're worrying that they're going to start the event really weak because they always fall apart in the first few stations. Like,
Yeah.
so the overall terms are the same, and that's just breaking it down to get more specific for the person.
Well, I remember years ago, there's one thing that you said early on that really um, kind of helped me gain control of a lot of things. And you said that the conscious mind loves drama, is drawn to it all the time, and lies all the time.
Yeah.
And and it was like once I learned its trick, I could control it. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
until you control it. Yeah, it does all
yeah.
those until you control it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll be, and like I do this all day long. I'll be standing around and I think the wrong thought, So and then I catch it at that moment, and then I flip that over, right? And but I do that all day long, and that's just kind of part of my life. As soon as I catch myself thinking wrong or going down the wrong road, I almost always stop just out of habit.
Well, that's mental awareness and
Yeah,
mindfulness and mental management, and you can't make changes unless you're aware of where you need to make those changes. And
yep,
you also can't just miraculously on competition day know how to manage your mind if you
That's
haven't
right.
been doing it all week, right?
That's right. That's right.
So I do tell people, like, you've got to practice these skills in life as a human, because you're not going to know how to apply them if you
No.
in the competition if you don't. And so it ends up being like a win-win, because the
Yeah.
person ends up enjoying their life more and having, let's say, peak performance in different areas of their personal life, not just in their shooting, because
Yep.
that's the way to master these skills, and then they carry over into everything.
Well, you can't be one guy for 22 hours a day, and then for 2 hours a day, you're going to be this other guy. All right. So that just doesn't work. So it is a life habit. That's what it is. And that's how you get there.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the issues related to mind that you've been working on over the years and you've seen improvement with?
My issues?
Yeah. Anything mental that you've seen that it's affected your game in the past, but you've addressed it and you've worked on it, and you see the progress that you've made by working on that mental part.
Well, it's mainly what I just said. It's thinking the wrong thought, stopping it, flipping that over. That's mainly how I stay out of trouble as far as that. But as far as issues go, with my experience is they never stop, and they're constantly evolving. And as soon as one issue gets solved, here's five more. It's a ongoing job, and I don't think it's one of these things where you're going to think perfectly and all your issues stop. You just learn to handle your issues a lot better, right? There's problems coming every day. It's just how you handle those, right, and challenges.
It
So
reminds me of the Laverne and Shirley episode with that conveyor belt.
that's
Would you
right.
did
That's
you
right.
ever
Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah. I
conveyor
know.
belt, and then the items are coming out faster and faster, and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Y-
right. That's right.
And
So
sometimes in life or in shooting, they can come quickly, right? Like
yeah.
multiple things seem to happen on that event day or in the
Hmm.
middle of the event, or
Yep.
in life, multiple things. And then there seems to be these breaks, these periods where it seems to flow a little bit easier. But ultimately, if you know how to manage your mind, you can be your best in spite of whatever's going on around you.
Well, I think
And
so.
it takes some practice.
Yeah, I think for me is just the truth is you don't always have a shot to win. I don't think that you always do, and I think that's kind of controlled by the sporting gods. So you have to learn that you don't always have a shot to win, but you always have a shot to go play your best. But it's just accepting that every time out you're not going to win, and it doesn't make you a worse shooter or less successful. I just think with lots of experience, you kind of know the days or the tournaments that you had a shot at it, and the ones that you didn't, and you kind of accept that and know that there's nothing really you can do to control that.
Yeah, you can kind of feel it, can't you? Or just know
Yeah,
where you're at. And, your competition is having all the same kinds of issues.
sure.
Let's say the umbrella issues, whether it's worry, doubt, fear, second guessing, and it's
Yep,
really a matter of how well they're managing those things also.
yep, that's right. And so every season there's a ebb and flow to it, and and you have to keep an even keel through all those ups and downs, and just know that sometimes you get a shot, sometimes you don't. But when you don't lose confidence or faith or start to think like you used to say, stinky thinking, right? And so that's the important thing to employ when things are off or you don't have a shot, is to still keep your inner dialogue positive.
Has there ever been a time, like in the midst of an event or right after an event, where you felt like quitting? Like, why do I even do this?
In moments of anger or outburst, yeah, for 10 seconds. Yeah. Just long enough for me to throw my crap, and and then I'm over it, and then I need to get to practice.
What do you think drives you to keep coming back for more?
I don't know. I think about that a lot. I think about, is it ego? Is it narcissism? Is it low self-image? Or is it just that I love to shoot? And I really think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Or all of
but
it.
yeah, yeah, or probably all of it. But I do think, because it does come at a high cost. The travel, the expense, the training, the heartbreak, all that stuff. But it's. I think when people start to try to become a top shooter, I don't think they really know how tough that can be and how long of a road that is.
Right.
And that's why having good skills, thinking correctly, is going to be super important for you to survive all that. You know what I mean?
Right. I could see that. I'm just realizing I can see that in my own endeavors, being self-employed and having goals and dreams and a direction I'm heading in. And there's always going to be what seems like, pitfalls or stumbling
Hmm.
blocks or speed bumps. And it is that
Hmm.
determination and that will to keep going or to
Hmm.
not give up and to manage your thoughts instead of just throwing in the towel and being like, forget it, this will never
Yeah.
happen for me.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a very successful shooting school, and I've had a Hall of Fame career, and I'm still going, and I'm still hungry, and I'm still trying to get better, and I'm still calling you, right? And I've already been around the sun once. I'm starting a second trip, I guess. So,
Well, you bring up a good point. There's a lot of shooters that are fairly new or not even that. They just don't perform currently at the, top 10 and they
hmm
kind of think you guys are different than them. Like
hmm
they think that you're superhuman and you
hmm
don't have human issues. What would you like to tell those kind of people that think that you guys don't have
I,
human issues going on?
no, I think um, I think all of us are there, just through a lot of sacrifice and lots of hard work, and I don't know anybody in the top 10 that doesn't have the same battles that everybody else does, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just we try harder.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I noticed at the Open in Chicago. So we finish on Sunday night, and the normal suspects Monday morning about 9 o'clock are practicing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Nobody else was there. Everybody going home, but then the top 10 guys, they're practicing Monday morning.
Yes. Makes sense. Yeah. So,
So
what are your beliefs around like having fun while you're competing, like being out there, like actually having fun? Because some people see that as, well, I'm not here to have fun. I'm here to win. So, what's your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
I think the headspace you're in absolutely has a lot of control over your round, and I think you can mad dog it too much. I think you can over try. I think you can be life and death a little bit too much. Um, I think sometimes a lighter attitude with good presence, with good concentration, when you're in the box, can be sometimes better. I think I'm like, I can't go out and shoot and talk a lot,
Mhm.
but I could be lighthearted and not have to talk a lot. But at the same time, I'm just kind of thinking back uh, to the headspaces of big tournaments that I've won. They've all kind of, I don't think any two of them have actually been exactly the same. Some of them have been super long programs and every shot's life and death. Some of them are more lighthearted. Some of them are more zen like.
Mhm.
Like the last Open that I won, it was very very zen like, very suppressed, and what it was just a real deep alpha state.
So, tell us about your experience with alpha or the zone. What does that feel like for you?
um, well, I can kind of manufacture that through my program. Like as I see the shot in my head at half speed, that kind of brings me down into what I think is more of an alpha state, and then I stay there, and I protect that alpha state, even with the way I close the gun, the speed that I set the gun up at, the speed that I call the bird at. Once I get to what I call zero, right, I'm going to try to stay there through closing the gun, setting the gun up, seeing the bird come off the plate, and mounting the gun to the shot. I'm just staying on my zero all the way through that, and so that's really all I'm trying to do. But the bird seems slow. You almost always see better when you do that. The shot just feels a lot slower and calmer.
You
Right?
said manufacture the zone or the alpha state. There's a instructor slash top shooter out there that apparently tells people that you can't make the zone happen. And
No,
so, of course, when I've heard that, I was like, wait, well, they don't understand the zone, right?
no,
Because
no, that's right.
you can make the alpha state happen. And I wouldn't even, I think it's the wrong word. It's not really make it happen, right? You just have to understand what alpha in the zone is and
Yeah.
then know how to put yourself in it. A lot of people take themselves out of it without or keep themselves out of it, which in my opinion is the bigger problem. So if the zone is this like this zen state of like you're totally zoned in on the target, everything disappears around you, time seems to fly by, you feel euphoric, it doesn't feel like you're the one even pulling the trigger. You're not thinking about score, you're not thinking about anything else, your conscious mind is clear and quiet. These elements, these puzzle pieces of the zone that I've like heard over and over again. And when I hear those, I'm like, oh, that one's achievable and that one's achievable and that one's achievable. Oh, wait a minute. That's the alpha state. And
Right. That's what it
yeah.
is.
And so it's totally doable.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to get out of your own way and stop
Yeah.
all the cruddy thinking that's keeping you from going
Yeah.
in.
Well, too, I don't allow my conscious mind just to have a party and kind of free will when I'm in the box. I'm actually in a very practiced thought loop, and I'm thinking the same thing, the same amount of time, the same way every time.
Yeah. You
Uh,
focus a lot on the process, like putting your conscious mind on the process, the steps.
yeah, yeah. It's just absolutely occupying my conscious mind, so I'm controlling what my thoughts are. Right, and that's a very practiced thought loop, and it's just over and over again. Right. So like I don't ever stop suppressing the conscious mind and allow the conscious mind to start telling stories. Right. You don't have to do this. You only have to do this for a few seconds at a time. Right. And stuff. So I don't ever just let my conscious mind go unsuppressed. I'm controlling it the whole time I'm in the box.
I love that. That's like one of the things I tell people is that you can be the supervisor of your mind, like the
Yeah.
manager, the director, instead of just letting it run wild and free and do whatever it wants.
Well, with our eye work, we basically see big picture stuff all day long. There's no small finite focus like you would need in target shooting. So as you see a blue sky, white clouds, green trees, green grass, big picture stuff, that's all back of the brain activity. All right. For you to see small and finite is frontal lobe activity. Right. For you to transfer from the back of the brain to the frontal lobe, you got to consciously think it. That's why the thought before the call and through the movement is so important. And if you don't think it, your percentile focus is going to be too low to matter.
Nice. That sounded really fancy, Wendell.
Well, it's not bad for a hillbilly. But that's just that's how the brain works, and it's just biology. If you don't think it, you're not going to see it in a high percentile. I mean, you will see it, but it's going to be too low.
Which reminds me, like the hot topic of focus. Can you help me focus better? I have problems with focus. And a lot of times people, when they think of focus, they're only thinking of their eyes, which
Yeah.
is absolutely important. You
Yeah.
have to have good vision and actually be able to see the target. But focus is eyes and mind, and that mind
Absolutely.
element is like, let's And I don't think when people say I have problems with focus, I don't know that they're really seeing it as all encompassing. Like, it's these two things, and
Mhm.
focusing on one specific element of the target so everything else disappears around you is a skill that can be built. And Wendell, you're right on. Like, the conscious mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you're deciding and dictating to it, like, this is what you're focusing on right now, and
Yep.
stick to that, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. The other thing, as far as being able to see the target, tension is it has a huge control of how well you see. And so the more tension you have in your movement, your visual cone is going to be bigger and bigger. And so as we shoot, we actually want that cone to be smaller and smaller. So if you're not controlling that, that's going to also affect your focus. And of course, to control tension, that's all mental suppression, isn't it? Right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it all kind of starts there again.
So what would you say is like the best part of clay shooting and the worst part of it for you?
The best part of clay shooting is coming down the stretch on Sunday with 3 to go, and you persevere through that part of the match to win. There's nothing like it. It just feels awesome. Uh, and that's the best part. The worst part now, since I've just done it so long and so much, is the travel. But coming down the stretch on Sunday is the best part. And too, I'd have to say, in the big picture stuff, all my friends now are all shooters, so it's kind of a close family and close friends. My entire friend base are almost all shooters. So
I
that's a
didn't know
great
you
part
had
of it.
friends, Wendell.
Well, I've got two, and they're on the payroll.
No, it is. It's like a big family, and
It is.
they're even though some of them are your direct competitors, still everybody's happy to see each other and welcoming. And I've observed that over the years.
Well,
It
earlier you were saying somebody was nervous about taking time to run a program in front of somebody. A true top shooter is going to know that you're trying your best, and it's not going to bother that shooter at all. It's all great people. It's the best circle of people I've ever been associated with.
Yeah, it's funny. There could be like two competitions one week after the other, or maybe 2 weeks apart, and people are all hugging each other like they haven't seen each other in a year.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
like, you did just see each other last week.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
No, it's great. It's one of the reasons that for my mental training that it took off so quickly. Like, I was working with golfers before clay shooters, and they were very singular. Like, they were going to keep it a secret. If I was working with one golfer, they weren't going to tell all their buddies, and a
yeah,
lot of times at like a PJ event, they didn't even want me standing near them. Like, don't stand near. I don't want
right,
anybody to know.
right,
And then when I started working with clay shooters, it just took off like wildfire.
right.
People like you that would tell other people, and next thing you know, they're
Yeah,
all just chit chatting about it, at events, and it was really
yeah.
cool to see that happen.
Tell all the shooters out there that's tuning into this, being able to control the mind, to be able to run your program, to be able to get to the alpha state, to be able to shift to the frontal lobe, all those things is equipment that you have to be good. And there's not a B plan. You have to master those things. So that's why your part of the game is so important.
Yeah, the mental part of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's come a long way. I
It
mean,
has.
you and I, like I said, I think like 2010, so almost 15 years ago. And in that period of time, I've seen more and more people more open to the mental game, more
Yeah.
curious about it. But even
Yeah.
those that already believe it, like, I don't have to convince as many people anymore. And
No.
then the other thing that's happened during like that 15 years is a lot of people know that what I'm teaching also helps them in their life and as a
Yeah.
human. And I never marketed that because I didn't think competitive people cared about it, right? They're like, I
Right.
just want to win. So I never
Right.
marketed it. But the word got out. And at first, let's go like 5, 10 years ago, people would say, well, I'm not looking to fix my life. I'm looking to win more. So I don't need all that. And so there were people that were naysayers about the aspect of,
Well,
improvement overall, but even that's
right,
changed, I've seen.
right,
People
right.
want
Well,
it.
I heard some of Anthony's podcast with you, and he was talking about how important having your personal life in check is to be able to be not distracted out on the field, and
That's right.
stuff. So he thinks that's an important part, and I will certainly tell you that that's an important part of the game as well. You got to have all that in check. You can't be fighting and have all kinds of circus going on in your life and walk out on the field and be good. It's just most likely not going to be able to happen. I do know a couple of guys that could probably do that, but for the rank and file, probably not.
It's practically impossible because you've got to be able to have that, at least the leg up on being
Yeah,
able to manage your mind. And if you have somebody that you care for and love, and you just had a knockout drag out with them, if
yeah,
you care, right, that's gonna be extremely challenging to
yep,
shut that out and manage your mind, which is what you're
yep,
attempting to do. And so the curveballs can be there, but ideally, if you're wanting to compete at a high level, you need to kind of buffer a little bit so there's less curveballs, because you're
absolutely,
you're not perfect. You're
A-
gonna have to manage your mind, and it's just easier to manage it when there's less speed bumps.
absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it.
So that is definitely a thing. And yeah, we talked about that with Anthony. And I've seen with clients over the years, and not even clients, just shooters that I talk to, some of them try to work while they're shooting. Like, they still have their cell phone on,
Yeah,
or they happen to be like a vendor who's shooting as
yeah,
well. And then people
yeah,
in their squad are trying to talk about purchases with them. And
yeah.
that's extremely distracting and
It is.
harmful.
It is. So, I'm just not a talker when I shoot. So if somebody's talking, all you got to do is just turn your back to them. They're not going to talk to your back.
You've got that mastered.
I do. I do. Show them the back. It'll stop.
I remember when Anne was with us, and she had told me once, which she was so stealth about some of the things that she did, but she
Mm,
had told me once that she knew which people were the talkers.
right.
And if you happen to get squatted with one of those people,
Hmm.
she would actually deliberately, like, go talk to them, like, but over, 20 feet away.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
she would purposely do some of those things to try
That's
to
right.
support
That's right.
you.
Yep. Yep. Like she would block. And she did it in such a nice way, nobody minded,
Exactly.
you
You wouldn't have
know?
known. Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah,
that's
it was
right.
really cool. She
Yeah,
knew you well, like, as far as what
yeah.
kinds of things would help you. Well, I want to tell all the listeners that I have, like, some free goodies for all of my businesses at dongrant.com/free, so they can get some stuff and try it out. But what about you, Wendell? What's your contact info and website, and what services are you offering, and where, and how can people find you? And
Well, so my phone number is 931-529-1802. If you want some instruction, just call me or text me. Judy Morris does my booking, and I think I have a site, and that's wendellcherry.com. And try not to email, just text or call. That's easier. Emails just drag everything out. It's like forever trying to get something done. It's almost like today, emails are like something I'll do 3 weeks from now.
I
Yeah.
know. I do
Right?
that. I, like, do only, like, the most important one today. And
Yeah,
then
that's
and then the
right.
others, I'm like, I'll
Yeah,
get to it. And next thing you know, weeks
yeah,
have gone
yeah.
by.
I'm thinking about taking email off my site just so everything's quick and direct, and then
You could
and
do
then we
that.
can just knock it out and get it done.
Your instruction is available where?
At at Big Red Oak Plantation in Georgia, and that's my wife's family's place, and I'm very proud of it. It's a beautiful place. It's huge. It's 4,000 acres, and we got great targets there. Great training center, and that's available 7 days a week. Then I teach in Chicago some, and then I'll probably teach in Florida January and February, and then I also teach at a small spot in Scottsville, Kentucky, which is not far from my house in Tennessee. So those four places are my main places at this time. But just text me or call me, and I'll take care of it.
And is there anything else that you were just dying to tell people in this podcast?
Well, I got 2 new guns from the open wind last year. I got a new target gun, which I was going to try to shoot for the Nationals, but I decided to wait till after Nationals. Then I got a new game gun, which is super cool. And so September 1st, when dove season opens up, I'll be trying that thing out. Maybe do a little bit of video stuff with that. And that's about it.
Folks, I do have NSCA events monthly at Amelia Shotgun Sports, and you can follow on any social media. And thanks for coming on, Wendell. I hope to have you as a guest again someday.
Absolutely. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you for joining us on Clay Mastermind with Dawn Grant. Mental excellence and industry insights. Brought to you by the Clay Lab. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and informative. Remember, mastering the mental game is key to unlocking your full potential on the course. And through our conversations with industry leaders, we aim to provide you with valuable insights into the world of clay shooting. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, rate, and share it. For more insights, training tips, and updates on upcoming events, Dawn Grant and Amelia Shotgun Sports are on all social media platforms. Go to dawngrant.com and come shoot at Amelia Shotgun Sports. Stay focused, stay driven, and keep pushing your limits. Until next time, Dawn wishes you success and happiness on your journey to peak performance and industry mastery.